Yeah, that's true. It doesn't do that. So this is I've talked a couple of times, I think at these meetups. It's a package I put out. It's been around for about 5 years.
Yeah.
It has 250 stars, 30 forks, almost 100,000 downloads. And what it does is um, it's high performance C sharp. So it's multi-core high performance computing. It has a bunch of algorithms, and I'm not going to kind of do, it's all open source. It's free. I think it's either MIT license, so
Yeah.
you're welcome to steal it, borrow it, learn from it. Um, uh, but it's a bunch of algorithms that go fast. So comparing to like Link, it's probably about 100 times faster. Comparing to standard algorithms, it's a bunch of times faster. Because C Sharp has great capabilities, supports it very similar. Microsoft adopted Intel's threading building blocks from C++ domain and put it in C Sharp. It's the same methodology. I actually have a C++ library as well. So this one is a C Sharp version. Um, but I won't talk about actually the library. I'll talk about kind of one of the concepts in there, and I call it perform no worse. So it's kind of like doctors do no harm, because with parallel processing, what can happen is if you do small amount of work and you throw 20 cores at it, it's going to slow down by 100x potentially, and that prevents programmers from using parallelism a lot of times. So what I introduced in HPC Sharp and the C++ version is this concept of perform no worse. And it's like, how does it do that? And so the concept is, if the amount of work is small, don't throw 20 cooks at it. That's too many cooks in the kitchen. Throw one at it. And that's what it does, is as the amount of work grows, so does the number of cores that are applied to it grows. And there's a threshold for each algorithm that you can tweak that knob and say, what is my threshold? And I set it normally to something reasonable. So then you don't have to worry about that, hey, I'm going to throw this parallel code and I may have a bunch of little pieces of work and it's going to slow my stuff down. You don't have to worry about that. So that's the main thing I wanted to present today, is this concept of, perform no worse. Then as developers, we don't have to think about it. You can do parallelism and not worry about it. Granted, if you have a bunch of little tasks, it's going to do the same as single core. So it is better if you have large pieces of work, then you've got enough work for all the cooks in the kitchen, and everybody will take a chunk of it. So anyways, that's what a lot of the algorithms do that are in here. And you'll be surprised, like even a copy, for instance, copy from a list to an array, that can be parallelized and it does accelerate. So you would think, oh yeah, a single core can get at all the bandwidth in processors. No, it can't. Actually, you need multi-core to actually take advantage and to get all the bandwidth. So even the copy accelerates with parallelism. So yeah, and there's a threshold on that one too, to where, okay, if it's more than like a megabyte or so, then it starts adding more cores to it. So anyways, that's kind of my lightning talk. I just wanted to introduce the library if you haven't heard of it. And there's a book that goes with it too.
There's a book now?
There's a book, yeah.
Oh, why do you bring that up on the outside? Sure.
Oh, that's true. And there's a book that goes with it.
What this straight C sharp.
It is pure C sharp. There's no dependencies of
So is it
any
easy,
kind.
Like where I could, like base class libraries where I could just use, I could bring it into like a mobile app and it would just be using like .NET Core.
Yes. Yes.
Cool.
Yes. Yeah, that's
I
right.
know
That's
with,
right. Because I've even run
I deal with them.
I've even run it on my Raspberry Pi.
Oh, okay.
So yes, it can run on the ARM as well. That's really cool. Yeah.
Is there some like sweating?
Anyway.
Sorry. There could be a minimum amount of data where you think it's worth bringing in something like this, that
It's probably depends on the algorithm, like sorting, for instance. That's kind of my favorite topics, because in there I have a radix sort, which is linear time, not n log n. So it really accelerates well just from kind of a better algorithm. I would say 10,000 or more kind of elements. Yeah, and then it's worthwhile. If it's less than that, maybe not. Yeah, but it depends on the algorithm. Like one of the algorithms in there is, as silly as it sounds, summation. But summation can overflow if you don't do it right. And plus I have like for floating point, if values are huge and small and you're adding those, then the small ones can drop off. But there are algorithms, can summation, that lets you not lose anything. It's really like, it gets down to this, what is it, sigma or delta? I mean, to where the error is really small. And that's the guy that came up with floating point. So I use that for summation, and that makes floating point summation kind of safer. And so even summations, you think, oh yeah, we know how to add numbers. Well, not safely a lot of times.
So as far as implementation goes, are you like large code base? Are you saying very specific about when to implement the functions in the library, or are you guys saying just kind of find every place that you do it, two lists or a sum?
I see what you're saying. That's what I would do. That's exactly right. Yeah, yeah. And the all the interfaces are exactly like what you're used to. So yeah, so that's
Good benchmarking data
yes, yes,
built in.
yes. So they're down below. There's benchmarking, at least for some of the algorithms. And yeah, some of them are, if you like, if you run on 48 core AWS or Azure nodes. I have run, Azure now has 192 core AMD machines, and it's pretty incredible.
To get all of the performance gains of swinging in, switching to read-only spans. It's the big go-to to speed things up. Is that something that you're using?
I have not yet. I need to catch up on what they've been doing and see what they've been doing. Yeah, yeah. For a while, I focused on C++ to wring that out, and so I need to get back to C# again.
I said over the last several years, the .NET team, the way they've been getting their incremental performance improvements is by switching a lot of the stuff to using read-only spans.
Yeah.
So I just wondering if that is
Yeah.
a technique that,
What's the other one? A block? It's like block array.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
there's two. There's spans, and then there's another one. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
But I know.
there's a bunch of techniques. But anyways, sorry.
Oh, okay. Yay.
Good. Yeah.
Thanks, Victor.
The page shows the link to the book on Amazon.
Oh, cool. Okay. Did you buy it? Did you buy account since you're on my machine? Like, well, I have it, it's like key or whatever it is.
I'm gonna use the browser too. I've got a.
Sure. I trust everyone. Good.
Just don't look at my history.
It's all right. Inside the browser. is the
Yeah,
thing.
the history.
Yeah, right. I was incognito. I don't know to worry about it.
It's hard to type with this angle here. Let's see if I typed it in right. Yeah, it looks like it. So I'm Michael Rice. Been working a lot in Blazor I've really been paying attention to it since it first came out and working with it a lot the last 2 years. I find it a very enjoyable experience working with Blazor, but one of the things that I even talked to Dan Roth about this was state management. I kind of asked him for, some advice on how to do state management. And he said, just do whatever you want, which was really not helpful advice, as you might expect. So they don't really have a preferred way of doing it. I think hopefully in the next couple of years, maybe they find a good way to kind of standardize it. But I kind of want to talk, what is application state? I'm hopefully everybody knows about application state, but it's all the data that is used by the application that affects behavior and, the structure of the application. There's a few different ways to manage state in Blazor. There's obviously the internal component state, all the parameters, the properties, fields, all of that stuff. Those can be passed down through the component tree as, any front end framework. Not going to talk about that too much because that breaks down as you get more and more complex. It's fine. It's, you're going to use it a lot, but it's not for the more complex, higher level state. You can also include stuff include state in the URL through query parameters or just the URL parameters. I'm not going to talk about that so much. That's kind of its own topic. What I really want to kind of focus in on is the cascading parameters and dependency injection, which are kind of the two main ways of doing things. There are libraries that you can use in your Blazor applications for managing state, but most of the libraries you're going to find are just using dependency injection and adding some stuff, some sugar on top of that. So I want to kind of talk through, some code samples between the these two methods here. Hopefully everybody can see that. How do you implement a cascading value in Blazor? You generally, there's a cascading value component in Blazor. You can use that to pass data down through the component tree to all of its children. So in this case, we are creating a razor component with defining the child content here so that you can populate the children of this component. But then I'm going to define a parameter or a property here called time. It's just a time only, and set it to the current time. And then there's one other method called update time here that just updates the time. To implement this in your application, generally with cascading value, you would generally you'd wrap it around your highest level component. So in this case, app.razor, it might be in your route.razor. It depends on your app and how you've got it set up. And that way, the state is available to all of its children in the entire application. And then finally, how would you implement this in the component that's actually using it? You would add a special kind of parameter called a cascading parameter. So it's just a property. The type is the parameter or the property that we're passing, or the component that we're passing in. So in this case, it's app state cascading value. And then you can just reference it in your markup, just like you would anything else, or in the rest of your code in the code block. So quick demo of this. I tried to kind of replicate visually the structure of this, but I have two components. They just display the time and have a button to update the time. And I want to see the state is held in this topmost component here, the cascading value component. And we're just using it down at the nodes on the tree here. So if we look, you click once, it updates in both places. Now, I did implement some special CSS magic here so that when we click this, you'll see when it re-renders. So what's happening here is the value is getting updated in that cascading value component, and that is re-rendering all the way down the tree.
Oh, cool.
So you can see when I click on this, all of the components are re-rendering. Now, Blazor has some magic about how it knows when to re-render. It does a really good job with value types.
Yeah.
It does not do a very good job with reference types because it doesn't know if things change. So it will just re-render if it's a reference type. In our code sample, you can see I'm passing this. So it's a reference to this component. So it's a reference type. It's just going to re-render everything. So that is an important thing to know about the way Blazor handles this. So Dependency injection is the other way that we would do this. So dependency injection, everybody that does .NET should be familiar with dependency injection. So we're going to do the same thing that we did in that cascading value component. We're just going to add the time property here in the update time method. But the magic of this right here is this, the two things at the bottom here. So we have an on-change event defined, and then a method to invoke the on-change event. And so when we call the update time method here, we're also going to call notify state change so that we can invoke that on-change event.
Should wait that.
Yeah, probably should. But implementing this in your application, you're just going to add a scope service of the type of your class that you're going to use for your state, and then implementing it in the component. The markup here is exactly the same. There's no difference in the markup. Where we're going to see some differences here is we're going to implement iDisposable. That's so we don't get memory leaks later on here. And then we are going to inject our state, and you can either do it the add inject, or you can add an inject attribute on your property. Doesn't matter. And then on initialization, we're going to register the status change method on the on change event. And then when we dispose it, we're just going to unregister so that we don't get a memory leak there. And in the example here, I added the state container visually. There's no actual component there, but one thing you'll see here, we get the same behavior on the screen where when we click the update, no matter which one we click, it's updating the state and then it's flowing down. But if you'll notice, the only thing updating are the components that actually are getting the update. So you get much more fine-grained control over what's rendering in this method. So just in conclusion, cascading value, it's it's good for passing data down through the component tree. It works best for things that don't change very often. Like you saw there, the entire component tree is going to re-render when that changes. It's simple to implement, but it's limited because the only thing that can access that are the components in the component tree. So with dependency injection, this is good for really globally accessible state things that like you saw, much more targeted updates of components. So things that change more often, it's a good option for that. It's slightly more complex to implement, as you saw, but the real big benefit, I think, is that it's not limited to use in components. So the application that I've been building with my team, we use dependency injection, and we inject that into other things that are not related to the UI at all. And that has made a huge difference and made the code much more manageable. So if anybody is interested, I put a QR code on the next slide, so you can get access to these slides and this application. You can check out the GitHub repo if you'd like. Put some links here. Some state management libraries. I've used Fluxor. I've not used Time Warp. Fluxor implements they both are the Flux pattern. So, and I think they both work with Redux dev tools if you are really into that kind of thing. I pulled Fluxor out of the application I'm working in. It just kind of too much work for what it was actually doing, and it's hard to debug a little bit when we were having issues. So I don't know that they're necessary, but if you like that kind of thing, then check those out. Some good blog posts as well, and then some Microsoft documentation. So, yeah. All right. I'll leave it up there if anybody wants to.
Couple things. Yeah, fellow Blazor developer.
Yeah.
So I inject a a static or a single object instance,
Mhm.
and that has my app state in it.
Yeah.
right? But what I found is when it gets injected, I can't see any of the values. The only way that I can see the values is if I actually materialize it by saying like var temp equals injected object dot whatever the value. And this is an issue I've had in Blazor mobile. You know,
Yeah.
now in Blazor hybrid. And I think I also had it with, I'm not sure that I've had it with Blazor web. I was curious if you run into that same issue.
Nah, I've not noticed that, no.
Is I'm like, okay, show me like my identity token that I've got, you know, because I store that in app state. And it's like, it just says, you know, nothing.
Hmm.
It knows that it exists.
That's
So it's
weird.
like, you know, cannot evaluate. And I'm like, I don't understand why. It's injected, it's valid right
Yeah.
here. And so I report a bug. I can't imagine I'm the only, I'm wondering if I'm doing something wrong.
Yeah, I
But
don't know.
I mean, it's not a lazy,
Mhm.
and it's just no data, just doesn't come through.
Yeah.
Is that data in a player class?
Yeah, it's a static, well, I mean, it's a single object instance, it's a singleton.
Yeah.
And it gets injected into, the page. And if and even in the immediate window, I don't get it. It just.
I've never
it just
had an
comes back very
issue.
easy. So I say, like, app state service dot, identity token.
Mhm.
And then it just returns back app state service, dot identity token. Like, no, I don't need dot toString of the type or
Yeah.
the name. I need the value. And it's like, no, but if I say var token equals app state service dot identity token, it's there.
What if you write it to string?
Yeah, but why can't I?
Yeah,
see
they
it in
should-
the object explorer? I mean, it should be there because it was injected.
What is it a string?
Yeah, but I should be able to see everything.
Yeah,
And I should be able to execute functions, everything. And it just does not do it. It just.
Huh.
Sounds like there's another instance.
It's a signal.
Not an issue.
Yeah, but it's there. I mean, if I say var temp equals a value from it, in the same function where I'm, and all the values like during runtime, it's working fine. It's reading values in, it's doing everything it needs to do. It's evaluating everything, but the debugger can't show me any of it.
yeah, I've never had an issue with a debugger in the injected.
Like, this is annoying as hell, because I gotta stop, create a variable.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be annoying, so.
Like you set a breakpoint, and you have no access to the values.
I've never had a problem with that.
It's a point.
Yeah. So I'm frustrated. So, I hear you. Have you found any optimizations that you need to make depending on which Blazor flavor you're using? Like Blazor server?
So. No, these options will work with server, WebAssembly. The application that I'm working on is WebAssembly only. And yeah, I've found that it's kind of a pain to support the new interactive auto mode, because you need to have the service on the server and in WebAssembly. And yeah, so it's kind of a pain. So you can set it so it only does one. Well, with WebAssembly, you can make it so that it doesn't pre-render on the server. And yeah.
Oh, so does it automatically know like when to send it? It's, in both?
No, because with auto, when you first go to the page, you'll be on the server unless you've already been there before, and it'll download all the DLLs and stuff in the background. And the next time you come back, you'll be WebAssembly. But yeah, so you're only doing one at a time.
So it doesn't auto transition.
No, I think they have a way to do that. It's kind of complicated and not, necessary in my instance. So yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, and then you're gonna talk about coupling,
Decoupling.
decoupling. Oh, okay.
I don't have any visuals.
Okay, hold, I'm gonna also plug in my laptop while you're.
Should I get out of stuff? Stop sharing your screen or?
Oh, yeah, you hit stop. Yeah, up on top. Stop all the way on top and say, no.
Yeah.
There we go.
And which one?
And then you can just, yeah. There.
All right. I wasn't planning on giving a speech tonight. That's why I don't have any visuals, but I pretty much have to work on my technical interviewing skills. So that's why I'm up here, and it's not educational for you guys. You guys probably already know exactly what I'm talking about. But I was talking about decoupling. A decade and a half ago, we didn't have that option. And if remember if one thing went down, such as like a database call or a notification of some sort or something went down, the whole app went down and you had to figure it out. Luckily, with decoupling and continuous integration, we don't have that issue. I've worked on 3 different contracts where we had C# API in the back end, and we decoupled it. The first and last one were Angular. The middle one was React, full stack. And with the first one, we were using Azure Service Bus to talk to the different uh, microservices. And with the second one, we were using gRPC to talk. And then with this very last one, they had the API was in an older version of .NET, and we had .NET 7, and we made a pass-through API that, in the meantime, would call the original code. But then when we started making the microservices for all the different projects, such as documentation, notification, etc., then we had actually the service bus. We didn't have a service bus. I'm trying to think about this. Hold on a second. The pass-through API would call our new service, and the biggest service was the data broker service, because that's where all the CRUD action went on with the SQL Server. And the same time, we were replacing Microsoft SQL Server stored procedures with Entity Framework, because everything had stored procedures behind it and it didn't have any history. And if we moved it over to code, at least you have history. So all of our microservices would call the data broker when we needed to do any kind of updates, creates, deletes, reads, basic CRUD. And so I'm thinking that with continuous integration, you don't have to take down the whole entire app. If there's something wrong with this, then the end user is not really gonna know. But back in the day, we didn't quite have that option. So I think decoupling an API is very important. That's my lightning. I'm just trying to have a little bit more confidence on my technical interviews. And coupling, on the other hand,
Like, ready to stop recording?
Yeah. The British BBC film from 2000, 2004.
I was gonna start with a joke, but I'm like, I gotta be serious, but I gotta be serious on technical interviews. I can't sit here and be sarcastic and move up, but
Well, we were coupling, but then we broke up. So now we're decoupled.
right.
Huh? Thank you. I'm here till Thursday. Try the veal. We got pizza. We have veal pizza.
Where's the beer?
Where's the beer? Who's drinking tonight? Drinking? Okay. Yes, drinking. Okay. I'm glad that I'm saying this all on camera, but that's okay because there was a lot earlier too. Okay. So I was going to show you zebra crossing. So for those of you who are wondering what the heck I'm talking about, is it Mike? Is it Mike? Okay. You weren't sure there for a moment. Am I calling you the wrong name? Oh, okay. You're gonna be like, actually, my name's Brad, but Mike's cool. I've always wanted that name. Okay, cool. All right, thanks, Mike. So I'm gonna start sharing my screen here. Yay. Okay, so I have actually done a barcode scanning presentation before. Let me see if I Yeah, a while ago, I actually did. So I'll bring up my presentation on this back when we did the Indy Xamarin meetup. Anybody remember that? Yeah, and I think we covered pretty much everything you needed to cover in Xamarin. So now it's kind of back to the .NET Consortium. But yeah, there used to be an Indy.NET or an Indy Xamarin meetup, and I ran it for like 2-3 years. Chris, you might know. Uh, anyway, this is back when I was director of software engineering at Clips. This is how long this was. Wow, that's great. That was 9 months ago. So anyway, uh, it's insanely easy to do barcode scanning in a mobile application if you're using a .NET framework. So if you're using Xamarin or using Maui, it's not as easy with Blazor Hybrid. That's what I'm finding. So I'm going to try figuring that out this weekend because I want to add barcode scanning. But if you just have like a Windows application or an existing Xamarin or Maui application, it's drop dead simple. So a little backstory on this. I'm not going to go through my whole presentation. This is a lightning talk. If anyone wants a copy of it, actually, if you just Indy Xamarin barcode scanning, and it's in the profile. So the same playlist that we've got for the Indy.NET Consortium. If you go and look, there's also an Indy Xamarin playlist, and the whole presentation for the barcode stuff is already there. So if you want to learn about like where barcodes came from, how they're related to the old train system, and the different kinds of barcodes, have at it. It's fascinating stuff, and I talk about it ad nauseum in the video. So enjoy. Anyway, it is simple. Use a library called Zebra Crossing. We all know why it's zebra crossing is it's black and white like a zebra. Let me explain this to you. Because zebras have stripes and they're of different okay.
Like the UPS, the FedEx,
Yeah.
stickers come out of the zebra printer.
Well, and did you know that if you actually scan a zebra, almost every time it comes back with the UPC code for horse? That may or may not be true. You should try it. You got to get them from the rear, though. So, no, don't make things up. Let's be serious. So, I'm trying here. So where zebra crossing or barcode scanning in .NET became insanely helpful was during COVID. So I built an app for the city of Fishers where the way that it was for handling all the scheduling and the patient intake for all of the COVID tests. So they came to me like, I got a call on like a Thursday night. Hey, do you know anyone who knows how we could like scan people in so that we can get people through? I mean, everything was ad hoc during COVID. Like no one's available. Everyone's working from home. And that's it. Like, do you know anyone who could help? I'm like, well, why don't we just use barcodes? We could print those in like Word or Excel on labels. And everything else you could do with a mobile phone. Like they wanted to do like a standalone printer and with a laptop with, and this handheld scanner. And I'm like, wait, you have a mobile phone. It's got this cool thing. I don't know if you guys have seen these on mobile phones, which suck as phones, but they have these like little lens things. I think they call like it's a camera. There's a camera on the back, and the camera can take photos. And one of the things you take photos of is barcode. It's crazy. And they got these processors in there, and using code and stuff, you can detect the barcode, which looks like one of these things, and then read it, and boom, you get a value. And that can be useful to some people. Yeah. So that being said, that's what zebra crossing does for you in basically one line of code. You can just say show bar or scan barcode, and it will automatically bring up a UI with the little, it has words and everything. And it has like the little target on it, you know, it's all nicely laid out, and it instantly can find things, or you can tell it to like search harder. So certain things use more battery life than others. You know, so like if it doesn't read something at first, maybe behind the scenes it's actually taking a photo and doing some more stateful analysis of it. Okay. But usually it's very, very fast. Um, and I think I even had code examples here. Yeah. Uh, so this is how hard it is. On Android, you have to initialize it. It's tough. By the way, this is all copy paste. Then scanner equals new barcode scanner. Result equals await scanner.scan. I mean, you really can't get that much easier. And then it'll automatically detect the type. And what you can do is you can even say, I only want you to look for certain types. So if you're on a sheet that may have different barcode types on it, for example, there might be a UPC code and a QR code. So if you're scanning the side of a milk jug, you don't want to get the marketing bullshit. You want to get the actual code 8 UPC code. You can say, ignore anything that is not of a particular type. That a little more complicated. You create new barcode scanning options and you create an array of what you want to support. Also, one line of code. So zebra crossing is just the de facto standard for mobile barcode scanning in .NET. I've done other things here. But here's where I said only use code 39. Whether to try harder, because some people, like when we did the COVID scanning app, we ran into an issue of people have crumbled paper, or they'd have a phone screen with a privacy protector on it, you know. But for the most part, I'm really proud of this whole thing because when we built it, the rest of the state of Indiana didn't have our app. And it would take 20 plus minutes to get someone through. We were 5. And that was the high end because you only had one device. You had one device, it instantly scanned, stored all the data off in Azure table storage so we could look data up later. But it could match the barcodes. So if anyone's test results got lost, we could find reservation to their test, their swab. But that was it. We were getting people through in 5 minutes or less. No, this was 2020, 2021. This, yeah. But I have a whole blog article on it. What? Oh, zebra crossing. There's a Maui version now. It works. Yeah.
Yeah. One for, I was just looking up as we're talking about it.
Yeah.
One for GitHub pack.
The
Android.
the mobile one,
Yeah.
like it's like zebracrossing.net.mobile or zebracrossing.mobile. That one isn't officially supported, but people have it working. Because I was looking this up this week. That's why I know this.
Yeah.
I haven't got it working yet, but I'm a special case because I'm using Blazor, the mobile Blazor hybrid.
Yeah.
But they do have a zebracrossing.net.maui that does work with the latest. Yeah.
We use Socket.
What is it?
Socket Mobile.
Socket Mobile?
Yeah,
Okay.
which is it's a commercial like an industrial offering for
Yeah.
big usage and stuff, but it's a pain in the butt to use. So
Oh.
I was thinking maybe that does sound better.
Yeah. If you're using Xamarin, you're fine. But if you're using Maui, you got to use that new one. Which let me see if I have the link to it. Red TH, it was this one.
I was just saying.
Here. This one. This is the one you want to look at. Yeah. So for the mobile Blazor hybrid, what I'm reading, I'm going to screw around with it because some people are like, well, here's what works. And I'm like, I don't know. I think you're going way too hacky. I'm wondering if there's a better way to do it. So I'm going to screw around with that this weekend. Because once I have it working, I can do whatever I want. You know, so I'll spend a whole day. But yeah, this should all just work. The problem I have, of course, is the Blazor hybrid view is not the same as like a regular view. It's its own thing. So when if I just try scanning, it goes, the application instance is null, or like the view instance is null, which makes sense. So I'm looking at how I want to surface that. And there are ways to bring up a modal from like another, like a XAML view from mobile Blazor hybrid. But there's got to be a way that I can do it just from behind the scenes. So I'm going to figure that out. And if I get it working, I'll publish a blog article about it. There's some other guys that are like, well, you have to have this permission on the web view, like microphone and exact location. And so I'm like, you're just using the camera. So the most you would just need the camera permission. But some people are like, no, but you need to add all this other stuff. I'm like, no. That and download our library that there's no code for. I'm like, dude, no. Huh? Well, if you're just a regular Maui app, you should be fine. Because I'm using Maui Blazor hybrid, which is basically a hybrid like web view with C# code, it's not as simple. It's not a XAML view where you have XAML controls. And you don't have access, as far as I know, to the parent view that might have a barcode scanner control. So I've thought about like making an application instance that I could grab anytime I want, because the application has been initialized. I do have a view. I should be able to bring it to the front, just kind of like, like not like not DI it, but keep an instance on the main layout view that's accessible to the application. It's a little hacky, but I need it at all times anyway. So if I need it at all times and I'm not using it, I don't have a memory or performance issue, at least the way I see it. So is it beautiful? No. Is it fully functional? Yes. Does it solve my problem? Yes. Does it do it in one line of code or a few lines of code? Yes. Is it easy to explain? Yes. Okay, great win. So we'll see. I'll screw around with that this weekend, and yeah. But if you were looking for the Maui approach, which would include Windows, this would be it. Yeah. I don't remember what the license is, but I mean it wasn't a bad license. Oh, then it is. Yeah. Yeah, MIT license. You're right. Yeah. So yeah. Did that answer your questions about that? So there's other events too, like you can tell when it has captured something, but let it continue scanning. So you could keep on adding it to a list, for example. But it's up to you. I mean, the sky's the limit. The basic use case with simple code, I think handles a lot of needs. Yeah. There is a barcode renderer. But there's other libraries that'll do barcode rendering as well. Like SyncFusion has a barcode renderer, and it's free for businesses under $1 million. But Zebra Crossing will do barcode rendering for you. Yeah, there's a barcode generator. I think so. Yeah, it can do a bunch of different types. It's different than like 20 years ago when you had to pay like $1,000 for a library that ran on a server and gave you, I paid for that. I remember doing that because barcode scanning wasn't free and barcode generation was definitely not free. You had to pay for the font. Yeah. So no, what they did is at the beginning of the day, they just had an Excel macro that, it was like like 2020, 05, and then whatever, like May, and then like the day, and then it would go from like 1 to 500, because there weren't usually more than like 500 appointments for the day. And they would just print those out as sheets, and they would have those. So when you scanned, I'll actually show you. If you look at if you go to our re.net, uh, unless I have it, do I have that in my presentation? No. But
Already got that.
yeah, I gotta. We're boop boop boop. It's way back there. Oh, here we go. Yeah. So yeah, building a COVID patient scanning app in 24 hours. So that was my original design. I'll share my screen so the people looking can see it. So here's how we should do it. Stupid, simple, scan, print, and basically scan a QR code on the top, confirm that that exists. So we use the Qualtrics API to look up the actual survey, make sure it was legit. And then they would scan the barcode of the label that they're going to use that has the swab on it. And then that would tie the two together and would actually submit back to the Qualtrics API so that when they did their survey reporting, it would have the actual barcode attached to it. Qualtrics was a pain and very expensive, but I wish I could get the kind of money they do. I mean, wow. And I don't care that that's recorded. They were nice, like some of the people were nice, but wow, that was a racket for a surveying platform. So this is what we would have. Code 39, City of Fishers, May 2020, and then yeah, and then it would be scanned. Apparently, this is not gonna. Cool. So yeah, if you ever want to read this, just it goes over how I built it. But yeah, and then they would put that on the vial, and boom, we were done. So people would pull in, and the cool thing about this uh, is people didn't even have to like roll down their window to get checked in. They could just put their phone or the paper up, and the mobile app could quickly scan. And then they'd be like, okay, you got to roll your window down so we can swab your nose. And so they would do that, and that takes 30 seconds or less. And then they drop the thing in there and be like, bye. And then they would leave. And it was instant. Like everything was instant. Yeah, there you go. Scan the patient, scan the kit, confirm and submit. Like we had all these rules. I was talking to and we were talking about, he's like, okay, I picked up 5,600 labels. I think that should be enough. I'm like, yeah, I think so too. We use Xamarin. This was all Xamarin Forms. This is what it looked like. Like stupid simple. Like I was like, once you have if you have 2 greens, you can submit. So everyone thought it was super easy to use. Yeah, and so yeah, that's what they would do. They'd scan the little survey. This is how I tested it. How we figure out the user experience. Um, yeah, Apple was giving us some difficulty in the beginning, but then they got cool about it. Cause they're like, I'm trying to remember what the reason was. Yeah, no, they're mad that there were no, barcodes to test with. So they rejected it because they couldn't test the app's functionality. So I had to send them a link to barcodes that they could scan, so to prove that the app could scan barcodes. I'm like, you have barcodes everywhere around you. Just grab the Coke can that's on your desk.
Shampoo.
Yeah, I mean,
You took them out there, qualifying it for the app store.
it was never going to go to the app stores just to get it into beta testing. Yeah, I'm like, what? But you never know with that. You know, it's been difficult lately is Google. Google's been more difficult to submit an app for like with Lick, because their automated stuff. I'll tell you that after this. Oh yeah, here's we did a dress rehearsal. We had like a dummy. Yeah. And this is how we tested that, like how long would this take? Does the process work? It was super cool. Like we got this done super fast. Yeah, you had to wear a mask around this guy. I mean, look how pale he is. Yeah, this is yep. They had the legit masks too. Yeah, you see how we put it all together? And then date one. Um, oh, so like day one, the app wasn't working. And we're like, I'm like, there's no way. I mean, we tested this. Qualtrics was having issues. The most expensive piece of this whole system, where they were like $250,000 or something insane for handling surveys, because they could get the money back then. They were down, and so they didn't believe they were down when we called them. I remember that. I'm like, you're down. You're definitely down. It's not us. It's you. And then they called some people. Yeah, it's us. Okay, yeah. And then boom, it started working. I'm like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with my app.
Yeah, plug it in.
Yeah. So here you can see people going through in the field. Yeah.
It's photo journalism. Yeah. I feel like any projects I don't take a single picture. It's like, oh man.
Oh, this was so much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got to play with like the little animation stuff that Xamarin Form supports. So I would have it like, like bounce the like check mark. And because you're looking at the screen all day, I'm like, I should give you something active to look at, So yeah. Yeah. Anyway, that was not a lightning talk, by the way. That was more like a long rainstorm talk.
Yes.
Blizzard.
Know why, Swedish warships have barcodes on them? Delivery center harbor, they can scan the Navy.
Nice.
I am so, oh, here. That's like why does the Scandinavian army have, or no, the Navy have, glass bond boats? So they can see the old Scandinavian army or Navy? Okay, thank you. No, okay. And then, damn it. I had some other inappropriate thing to say. What there was, I was gonna say something, but I guess it's not.
People online go close to the air, feel free to take it.
Mhm. All right, I think that was the last lightning talk, everyone. So feel free to drop. We'll meet up again in January. I know we have one for AI for next week or for next month, but we're gonna cancel that. And we're trying to get some swag for the group. And then Microsoft lost our email, I guess. So anyway, hope to see you in January. Happy holidays and take care.